What happens when the strongest man alive is brought down by love, not by war? What happens when a hero chosen by God forgets who gave him his power? This is the story of Samson, a man with muscles so strong he could tear a lion apart with his bare hands. He was God's special hero, a rescuer for his people, the Israelites. Before he was even born, an angel came to his mother and told her, "Your son will be special. He will begin to save Israel from their enemies, the Philistines." He was set apart for God, and his long flowing hair was a sign of his promise, a secret symbol of his incredible, God-given might. Samson was a Nazirite, which meant he made a special vow to God. He promised not to drink wine, not to touch anything that was dead, and most importantly, never to cut his hair. As long as he kept these promises, God's Spirit would rush upon him, filling him with a strength no one had ever seen before. He was like a walking, talking miracle. His strength wasn't his own, it was a gift, a powerful secret that flowed from his obedience to God. The people of Israel looked at him with wide-eyed wonder. He was their champion, their protector, their hope against the mighty Philistines who ruled over them with an iron fist. He was God's answer to their prayers. Once a young lion roared and leaped at Samson, but Samson didn't run, he didn't even flinch. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him with such power that he grabbed the lion and ripped it apart as if it were a little goat. He didn't even have a weapon in his hand. Another time the Philistines cornered him, thinking they had trapped him for good. They tied him up with new ropes, so tight that no ordinary man could ever break free. They laughed and celebrated, but their laughter stopped when Samson simply flexed his arms. The ropes snapped like threads and he picked up the jawbone of a donkey and defeated 1,000 men with it. He was unstoppable, but with great strength came a great and dangerous pride. Samson began to think the strength was his own. He started to forget that it was a gift from God, meant to be used for God's purposes. He grew bold and reckless, following his own desires instead of God's commands. He saw his power as a tool for his own glory, to get what he wanted, and to show everyone how amazing he was. He was the strongest man in the world, and he knew it. But he was forgetting the most important thing, the source of that strength. His heart was slowly, quietly, beginning to drift away from the one who had made him so mighty. Samson's greatest strength was a gift from God, but he also had a great weakness, one that wasn't in his muscles, but in his heart. He had a wandering eye and a stubborn will that often led him toward things God had told his people to avoid. He wanted what he wanted, and he didn't like to wait or listen to warnings. His pride made him believe he was above the rules, that his incredible power made him invincible to any kind of danger. He was strong enough to fight armies, but he wasn't strong enough to fight the desires that were growing inside him. He was a hero on the battlefield, but a beginner in the battle for his own soul. This weakness for beautiful women who did not love God led Samson into trouble again and again. He fell in love with a Philistine woman, even though his parents warned him against it. He knew it was against God's plan for his people, but he insisted, "She's the one I want." This choice led to riddles, betrayal, and a violent rage that left many to dead. Samson was using his God-given strength not to rescue his people, but to settle his own personal scores. He was like a child playing with a powerful and dangerous toy, not understanding its true purpose or the responsibility that came with it. His heart was leading him down a dark and lonely path. Each time, Samson escaped danger by the skin of his teeth, using his mighty strength to get out of the traps he had walked into. He carried away the giant city gates of Gaza on his shoulders, a feat so incredible that it became a legend. But these narrow escapes didn't teach him wisdom. Instead, they made him even more arrogant. He thought, "I can handle this. No one can defeat me. I am Samson." He was relying on his own power, his own cleverness, his own ability to punch his way out of any problem. He was walking a tightrope without a net, and he didn't even realize how high up he was. His pride was like a blindfold, covering his eyes so he couldn't see the real danger he was in. The Philistines, his sworn enemies, were always watching, waiting for a chance to discover the secret of his strength. They couldn't beat him in a fair fight, so they looked for another way. They knew his weakness wasn't his muscles, but his heart. And so they set a trap, not with ropes and soldiers, but with a pretty face and a soft voice. Samson, blinded by his own strength and desires, was about to walk right into it, completely unaware that his greatest test was just around the corner, waiting for him in the valley of Sorek. In the valley of Sorek lived a woman named Delilah. The Bible doesn't say if she was a Philistine, but the Philistine rulers knew one thing: Samson loved her. His heart, which should have been fully devoted to God, was now given to this beautiful woman. The Philistine lords saw their chance. They came to Delilah secretly, their pockets heavy with silver coins. "Find out the secret of Samson's great strength," they whispered, their voices like the hiss of a snake. "Find out how we can overpower him and tie him up. If you do this for us, we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." It was a fortune, more money than she could ever dream of. Delilah agreed. She became a tool for the enemy, a spy with a beautiful smile. Her mission was to betray the man who loved her. But temptation didn't arrive like a charging army with swords and shields. It came quietly, softly, disguised as love and care. Delilah didn't shout at Samson or threaten him. She didn't challenge him to a fight. Instead, she wrapped her arms around him and whispered in his ear. She used gentle words and played on his affection for her. The greatest threat to the strongest man in the world was not a soldier, but a quiet, persistent question from someone he thought he could trust. This is how temptation often works. It doesn't always announce itself as a great, big, scary monster. More often it creeps in silently like a slow leak in a tire. It comes from a place we feel safe, through people we like, or through ideas that sound good at first. It's a small compromise here, a little white lie there. It's the voice that says, "It's not that big of a deal. No one will know. You deserve this." For Samson, the temptation was to please Delilah, to prove his love for her, and to show off just how special he was. He loved the attention, and he loved feeling powerful, even in a game of secrets. Delilah's plan was simple, but deadly. She would wear him down. She would use her charm and his love for her as weapons. The Philistine rulers were not trying to fight Samson's muscles anymore. They were attacking his heart, and his loyalty to God. They were using Delilah to find the one crack in his armor, the one secret that held his entire world together. And Samson, who could see a physical enemy from a mile away, was completely blind to the spiritual battle being waged for his soul. He thought he was playing a game of love, but he was really in a fight for his life. Delilah began her work. One evening, as Samson rested his head in her lap, she looked at him with her enchanting eyes and asked, "Please, tell me, my love, where does your great strength come from? How could someone tie you up and make you helpless?" It was a strange question for a lover to ask, a dangerous one. It should have been a red flag, a loud alarm bell ringing in Samson's heart. But Samson was so full of pride, so sure of himself, that he thought it was just a game. He decided to play along, to tease her and show off how clever he was. He didn't see the trap hidden beneath the sweet words. "If they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not yet been dried," he lied, "I will become as weak as any other man." He was toying with his secret, dangling it just out of reach. Delilah quickly told the Philistine rulers, who hid in the room, waiting. She tied Samson with the bowstrings while he slept and then shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" He woke up and snapped the bowstrings as if they were pieces of yarn that had touched a flame. He laughed. It was a good trick, but Delilah was not amused. She pouted and said, "You have made a fool of me. You lied. Please, tell me the truth." So Samson lied again. "If they tie me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I'll become as weak as any other man." Once more, Delilah followed his instructions. She bound him with brand new ropes. The hidden Philistines held their breath and she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." And again he sprang up and broke the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. The game continued, but it was getting more dangerous. Delilah's voice grew sharper. "You're still making a fool of me and lying. Tell me how you can be tied up." He was getting closer to the fire, but his pride still wouldn't let him see the flames. Each time Samson lied, he was chipping away at the sacredness of his vow. He was treating God's gift like a cheap parlor trick. His secret was not just about his hair, it was about his relationship with God. By playing these games, he was showing that he didn't respect the source of his power. He was being worn down, not by force but by the constant nagging pressure of temptation. Delilah's persistent questions were like water dripping on a stone. At first, it seems to do nothing, but over time, it can wear away even the hardest rock. Samson's resolve was beginning to crack under the gentle, relentless pressure. Samson offered a third lie, this one closer to the truth. "If you weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric on the loom," he told her. He was now playing directly with the symbol of his vow, his long hair. It was a foolish and reckless move. While he slept, Delilah did exactly as he said, weaving his hair into the loom and tightening it with a pin. Then, for the 3rd time, she screamed, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" He woke up and pulled his hair so hard that he ripped the entire loom right out of the ground. He was still strong, but he was exhausted. The game was no longer fun. Delilah was furious. She turned on him, her voice filled with tears and accusations. "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." Her words were like sharp knives, cutting right into his heart. She nagged and pressed him day after day. It was a constant, wearying pressure. The Bible says his soul was vexed to death. He was tired of the questions, tired of the pouting, tired of the fight. He just wanted peace. He wanted her to love him again. Temptation had won. It hadn't come with a bang, but with a long, slow, tiring whisper. Samson gave up. He told her everything. He poured out his heart and revealed the sacred secret he had guarded his entire life. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he confessed, his voice heavy with defeat, "because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." He had finally given away the key to his soul, the secret of his covenant with God. Delilah knew, this time, he was telling the truth. She could feel it. She sent a message to the Philistine rulers, "Come up one more time, for he has told me everything." While Samson slept soundly with his head in her lap, she called in a man to shave off the 7 braids of his long hair. As the last lock of hair fell to the floor, the strength of God began to leave him. The promise was broken. The special connection was severed. The strongest man in the world was now just a man. He was vulnerable, helpless, and completely unaware of what had just happened. As the last of his hair was cut, Delilah shook him awake with her final triumphant cry. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." Samson woke up, still groggy from sleep. He thought, as he always had before, "I will go out as before and shake myself free." He had become so used to his strength, so confident in his own power, that he didn't even notice it was gone. He stood up to fight, expecting the familiar surge of God's Spirit to rush through him. But this time, nothing happened. The power was not there. The Bible tells us the saddest words in his whole story. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him. There was no fight, no struggle. The man who had defeated armies was now easily overpowered. To make sure he could never be a threat again, they did the cruelest thing imaginable. They gouged out his eyes. The man who had been led astray by what he saw was now plunged into total, physical darkness. They bound him with bronze shackles and took him down to Gaza, the very city whose gates he had once carried away in a show of arrogant strength. There, they put him to work, forcing him to grind grain in a prison, a job usually done by animals. The hero of Israel was now a broken, humiliated slave. The people who once feared him now mocked him. They would come to the prison to stare at the once mighty Samson, now blind, weak, and pathetic. His pride had led him here. His desire had been his downfall. His disobedience had cost him everything: his strength, his freedom, his sight, and his connection to God. He had traded God's incredible gift for the empty promises of a woman who betrayed him for silver. It was the lowest point of his life, a dark and lonely pit of his own making. But even in this dark, miserable prison, a tiny seed of hope began to grow. It was something small, something the Philistines didn't even notice. It was so simple, they paid it no mind. Samson's hair, the sign of his vow to God, began to grow again. It was a quiet, slow process, happening day by day in the darkness of his cell. It was a tiny physical sign that God was not finished with him yet. God had not abandoned him forever. Even in the depths of his failure and despair, God was preparing to give Samson one final chance at redemption, one last opportunity to fulfill his purpose. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. In the darkness of his prison cell and the deeper darkness of his blindness, Samson had nothing to do but grind grain and think. He had lost everything that he had once valued: his strength, his fame, his freedom. He had relied on himself, and it had led him to ruin. With nothing left of his own, he began to do the one thing he should have been doing all along. He began to turn his heart back toward God. He remembered the purpose he was given before he was even born. He remembered that his strength was never his own to begin with. In his weakness, he finally started to find true strength. The Philistines decided to have a great celebration. They gathered in the temple of their god Dagon to offer a huge sacrifice. "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands," they cheered. The temple was filled with thousands of people, including all the rulers of the Philistines. They were drinking and celebrating their victory over Israel's champion. In their excitement, they shouted, "Bring out Samson so he can entertain us." They wanted to mock him one last time, to parade their broken trophy in front of everyone. They brought the blind Samson out and made him stand between the two central pillars that held up the entire temple roof. As the crowd laughed and jeered, Samson spoke quietly to the servant who was holding his hand. "Position me so I can feel the pillars that support the temple," he said, "so that I may lean against them." The servant did as he was asked. Standing there between the pillars, Samson felt the weight of the whole building around him. He heard the roar of the crowd, a crowd that hated him and his God. He knew this was his last moment. He had one final choice to make. He could die as a broken entertainer for his enemies, or he could die as a servant of the Lord, fulfilling his life's mission. In that moment, Samson prayed. It was not a prayer of pride or arrogance. It was the humble, desperate prayer of a broken man. "Sovereign Lord," he whispered, his voice full of pain and repentance, "remember me. Please God, strengthen me just one more time, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." He was not just asking for revenge, he was asking to complete his calling. He was asking God to use him one last time to save his people. It was a prayer of faith, a prayer that acknowledged God as the only source of true strength. God heard his prayer. With his hands on the 2 central pillars, Samson pushed with all his might. As God's strength surged through him one final time, he cried out, "Let me die with the Philistines!" The massive stone pillars groaned and then gave way. The entire temple roof came crashing down, burying the Philistine rulers and the thousands of people who were celebrating inside. In his death, Samson defeated more of his enemies than he had in his entire life. He had failed many times, but in his final act of faith and surrender, he fulfilled the purpose God had given him, to begin the deliverance of Israel from the Philistines. His family came and took his body and buried him, a fallen hero who found redemption at the very end. Samson's story is filled with simple, powerful lessons for us. It teaches us that strength without obedience is dangerous. Our talents and gifts are from God, and if we use them for our own pride, we can get into deep trouble. It also shows us that temptation is often quiet and slow, coming through things and people we trust. We must guard our hearts. Pride blinds us to danger, making us think we are invincible when we are actually walking toward a cliff. But the most beautiful lesson is this: God is a God of second chances. No matter how far we fall, if we humbly turn back to Him and ask for forgiveness, He will hear us. So, what does this mean for our own lives? We may not have super strength like Samson, but we all have gifts from God. Are we using them for His glory or for our own? We all face temptations. What are the quiet whispers in your life that try to pull you away from God's plan? Are you like Samson, relying on your own strength to get by, thinking you can handle it all on your own? Or are you leaning on God, trusting that your real strength comes from Him? Samson's story asks us to look at our own hearts and see where our true trust lies. Let his life be a reminder and a message of hope, a reminder to stay close to God, to be humble, and to be careful of the quiet temptations that can lead us astray. And a message of hope that even when we fail, even when we hit rock bottom, God's forgiveness is there. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. We can always, always turn back to Him. Let's finish with a simple prayer. Dear God, please forgive us for the times we rely on our own strength and forget You. Guard our hearts from temptation. Give us the true strength that comes only from trusting in You. Amen.